so get the pass.
Yo, what's up guys? I'm back with another video. This one is a Deadlock video and I'm going to be talking about Victor. So, I wouldn't say I'm a Victor one trick, but I would say he's easily my most played character, right? I have 151 games on him out of 500. Not a ton of games, but enough games to know how to build and how to play this character. And I think I've cooked up something pretty good. A lot of the items not a lot of people are using, and I think they should use more. And that could go for a lot of other characters. I think there's one item in particular that's really strong right now that nobody's talking about. So I'm going to talk about the character, how I think you should play him, and what he does. So let's go. So starting off with kind of how to play Victor, if you don't already know, he's a pretty simple character in concept. Basically, his 3 creates a big circle around him that does damage when enemies are within inside the radius, and as these words here fill up, it does more and more damage until it's full, and then you get what that says, the max DPS. The way that you want to play Victor is as a frontline, but a frontline carry. So you're not going into necessarily soak up damage, you're going into kill people. Now, he does soak up damage because he's a drain tank, right? You're going to go a lot of damage and then use that damage to have lifesteal, and his 2 and his 1 will heal you, right? When your 1's maxed, you heal for 15% of your missing health, and your 2 does some amount of current health damage to give you regen, so you use it when you're like half or below, especially if you're around like 30% health. It'll give you a lot of healing, especially when it's level 3. You're basically going in to their backline on their carries, disrupting the team fight by making their supports like come back to deal with you, because you pretty much win most 1v1s, even 1v2s, once you are mid to late game. That's the only problem with this character, is his early game's not very good. He doesn't really come online until around the second rift, maybe like around that 17 to 20 minute mark, depending on how fast you're farming, because he needs infuser or some kind of lifesteal item, right? His 3, the only downside of it is, as you can see while I'm using it, it's going to hurt me. And as the damage of it ramps up with these, the words filling up, that also affects me, and then now I take more damage as well. So you kind of need lifesteal, right? Because the healing from these isn't really enough to sustain it, especially late game as you level it up and get damage to make it do more damage. You take 70% reduced amount, but it's still going to be a lot of damage. So that's kind of how to play him and what to be thinking about. So with that being said, you would think you'd probably want to build him like full spirit, but he actually has a pretty decent gun, and there's a lot of items that are gun items that are very useful on Victor, even if they're not making your gun itself do a lot of damage. So as you can see, right, it's like actually not a bad gun for having no items. The only downside really to his gun is that it's projectile based, so if I go to shoot these orbs, you can see it takes time for my bullet to actually get there, right, and you have to lead your shots if they're far away, but that's okay because Victor wants to play within this radius anyway, so now bullet velocity doesn't really matter. So I don't go anything for bullet velocity, and these are the items that I go. So Victor really wants spirit power, he really wants lifesteal, and he really wants to not be slow, because Victor's also really slow, as you can see. He's one of the slower characters, and he's in the slowest bucket for his stamina, right? He doesn't dodge particularly fast. He doesn't get his stamina back particularly fast. And he's susceptible to being slowed. So we do have enduring speed in the build, but just to start off, let's start, kind of in the order. So we start the build with close quarters. Now, this seems weird. A lot of people won't go this. They might even go like the golden goose egg or something. But see, Victor's early game is already bad, and I don't like the idea of making it even worse by going egg to make his already strong late game even stronger. So I like to go close quarters. This is basically a way to clear the lane faster, because you're going to do 20% extra damage when you're up close, and that's not counting the weapon investment that it gives. So you can see on body shots to minions, I'll go from 15 to 19, and when you count all the ammo that you're going to be shooting, that's a lot. And obviously headshots from 24 to 32. So it's quite a bit of extra lane clear, and also because Victor's 3 is going to be hurting him. And what I didn't talk about was to use your 1, you have to take damage. So it'll start charged, but once you use it, now you're going to have to take damage to charge this back up. And it's quite a bit of damage, like especially like early and mid game. So most of your damage is actually going to come from your gun, because you're not going to be using this very much because it's going to hurt you more than it's worth. So I like to go close quarters. Then we go extra spirit, because this is going to make us heal more. It's the best amount of spirit power you can get for the price. We're going to heal more, and when we do use our 1, it's going to be better. And there's nothing wrong with occasionally using your 3. Like if you're like if you're playing in one of the side lanes and you're on the bridge and they're under you, sometimes you can hit them when they can't hit you, and it can be like a little cheesy thing. Or like if you're playing around the veil, right? Like there's times when it can be good. You just don't want to have it on for like extended periods of time. So mostly for the healing though. Then we go enduring speed. This character hates being slow, like I said. This allows you to move a little bit faster. So now we're at 9.4 movement speed instead of 7.4 movement speed. It's pretty good. It also gives us out of combat regen, which is nice. And we're 25% resistant to slows, which is really good because there's like a lot of people playing Kelvin and things that can just otherwise slow you, right? Like if there's items, people are trying to like peel you off, this is going to help you resist some of that. Then we have extra charge. As you can see, I have a note to sell as needed when the 2 is maxed. I don't think that this item is actually mandatory once your 2 is maxed, because a max level 2 gives you an extra charge. So most of the time you're going to have charges when you need them, because this is all the charges I have until the 2 is maxed, and then the 2 maxing out just replaces this, and I never find myself needing a 2 when I don't have it, right? The 2 is really good. It gives you movement speed. It's best used when you're below half health, or particularly around 30%, because it's going to do damage based on the amount of health you currently have, to then restore health over time as regen. So the less health you have, the less damage it does, because it's based on how much health you currently have. So it's going to hurt me more when I'm closer to full, but it is okay to use it above 50% if you really want that burst of speed, especially when it's tier 1, when it's level 1. Because it'll double the movement speed bonus that you get to 6. Then we go Mystic Regen. So Mystic and Radiant Regen are items that I originally wasn't buying on this character, and I was actually going Torment Pulse here as my way to get the Spirit Spike with the 4.8k. But I was thinking about it, and Torment Pulse I feel like is kind of overrated. I'm going to be honest. I was looking at my games. Sorry about that. I was looking at my games, and most of my damage, like not even like 20% of my damage was coming from Torment Pulse. It's a very small amount of damage, and what it is like okay for is helping you farm early, but we have close quarters for that, and this item's way cheaper and does a decent job at it. And I find that Mystic Regen and Radiant Regen are just way better. When you get into like the mid and late game, this item genuinely is like 20% of your healing on this character. It's insane. So like you have 20% more healing when you go this over something like Torment Pulse. And yeah, Torment Pulse like does damage, so you'll lifesteal from it, but this procs when your ult is level 1. When your ult's level 1, while the ult is on cooldown, which is 240 seconds, you get 15% fire rate, and your gun gets 6 spirit damage added to it, right, which scales with your spirit power. So every time you're shooting something, you're proccing this to get increased regen on anybody that you shoot. It's like really, really good. And I don't level the ult much. Like I don't level it past level 2 until like the end of the game. So it's a really long cooldown. So this is like always active, right? Not to mention obviously with your 3 and your 1, those are also going to proc it. This item is just way better than Torment Pulse in my opinion for hitting that 3.8k spike. I think Torment Pulse is overrated. A lot of people are going to run away from you early in mid game and not let you stick on them. And late game, when you can, you're doing more damage from everything else anyway. I'd rather just have more healing. So we get that Radiant Regen. Then we have Healing Booster. This is a no-brainer. It gives health regen and an extra 1 for out of combat, and it increases the effectiveness of our healing by 20%. So our 2 will start to heal us a lot more relative to the damage that it's doing to us, and it's also going to boost the healing from Radiant Regeneration on cast and the health per second. I also forgot to mention Radiant Regeneration also gives us movement speed, so when we use our 2 or our 1, we're going to also move faster. It's just really good to have this. The healing on our 1 will also go up which is really good. Then we have Fleetfoot. I think if you're going to be playing Victor and you're going to be shooting your gun, you need to have Fleetfoot. Victor hates being slow, and you slow down when you shoot your gun. Um, so if you don't have Fleetfoot, you cannot shoot your gun on Victor, basically. Like, it's almost not even worth it with how much damage it does, because you're sacrificing sticking to them to do gun damage. But if the slow that you're getting from shooting means that they get out of your aura, it wasn't worth shooting in the first place. So you want to go Fleetfoot, right? This item removes the movement speed penalty you get while shooting, and the active of it gives you the 3 movement speed and 40% slow resist. So on top, like with this, on top of this, on top of this, you're moving pretty fast, and you're pretty resistant to slows. So like if my 2 is level 1 and I press it and I press Fleetfoot, you can see we go pretty fast now. Victor's not that slow anymore, right? This speed boost is decaying over time, but you're pretty freaking fast, right? I'll go from 9.4 to, let's wait for Fleetfoot, to 16 for a brief period of time. So it's, you go pretty freaking fast. People aren't going to be running away from you that well. And a lot of people are playing like Kelvin and stuff, right, with slows. So this will help you negate some of those slows. Now, let's get into the mid-game section. So here we are in the mid-game section. I start off by getting Spirit Lifesteal. This is just going to help us actually be able to start using our 3 to actually do damage instead of just like clearing camps. Because we're going to start healing from it. Not quite, right? It's still going to do like more damage to us than we're going to heal once it's ramped up. But you can see it's not like terrible. We can start to use our 3 around this point, I would say. I would say up until this point, though, you're not really going to be using your 3. And that's why we also go range here on the 3. So our 3 is an 8 meter radius before it's maxed. This brings it to a 9.6 meter radius. So it's quite a bit bigger. Makes it a lot better, easier to hit people with it. You can even potentially hit more than one person, and it's going to be really good around the rift fights and stuff. Then we get Infuser. Infuser is when this character is actually a character. Basically, until this point, the character's kind of bad. All you have is your 1 as some like retaliation damage. You take damage to deal damage. You can be somewhat fast, and you can be somewhat hard to kill because you have like healing and stuff, and you have your ult. But once you have Infuser, then your 3 becomes an actual ability. So if I ramp up my 3 here, and let's say I just have like 2 points in it, and I get low, you can see this is going to heal me pretty good, right? It's actually not like hurting me anymore. And also by this point my 1 would be maxed. And then you can see how much my 1's going to heal me. Let me just get low. This is how much the 1 would normally heal me. So I'll get like low. So you can see it heals quite a bit more. Infuser on this character is really, really good. Even with 4.8k gun, I would go Infuser over Leech. It's just way better to have big bursts of healing while also getting like a lot of spirit power than it is to have less but sustained healing, because Victor is already good at that. You want that burst of healing, in my opinion, from Infuser. Also, right, if your ult was on cooldown and if your ult was on cooldown and it was level 1, then Infuser will, benefit the bullets that you're shooting from this. So really, really good. And this is like kind of close to that second rift fight, as long as you're farming efficiently. Like if you're able to side lane and clear camps in the meantime of those waves, which is what you want to do, then by the second rift fight you can actually participate in the game because you'll have Infuser, and this is around the time when you can actually start to kill things. Now we get into an item that I would say is debatable, but kind of overpowered, especially on Victor. So we have Spirit Shredder bullets, but more so Spirit Rend. I almost never see this item bought. I look at all my recent games, like out of 10 games, I might see 2 of this item, which is ridiculous. If you look at any chart, basically once the game gets to like the mid game, it's like 50% gun, 50% spirit, and then once it gets past that, gun drops off and spirit ramps up, and the game's almost entirely spirit once you get close to 30 minutes, right? And that's even for guns or characters that you would think are gun heroes, right? Like, unless it's Venator or like one or two other heroes, they're probably doing mostly spirit damage, and this reduces enemies' spirit resist. So for Victor, it's obviously a no-brainer. Victor wants to do spirit damage. That's like 80% of his damage, right? Even with these gun items, you might do like 10 to 15% of your damage as gun. So a lot of that is spirit damage. And this is the best item for reducing spirit resist in the game, right? If I just shoot somebody one time in the head, now obviously there might be like diminishing returns on this, but it would be 15% reduced protections. And even if it's diminished, it's still going to be a lot, right? I don't know exactly how the stacks on this like work together, but it's the best item to shred, right? Because if you look at Mystic Vulnerability, it's the same amount, but this also gets the passive to stack on headshots. And like I said, Victor's a drain tank. He wants lifesteal. This is lifesteal. This item works for your entire team. So if I headshot this guy once every 2 seconds, I'm going to further reduce his protections to spirit by 7% until it's maxed. And now you can see, just as an example, right, with my 3 being level 2, when I'm fully ramped up and he has 4 stacks of this on him, I'm doing 45 damage. Okay. Now I'm going to fully ramp up and I'm going to have no stacks on him, and we're going to see how much damage it does. So from 45 all the way down to 33. Now that doesn't seem 33, 34. Now it doesn't seem like a lot, but this is only going to increase as our damage increases because it's percentage based. So this isn't like the peak Victor, like we're doing all of our damage, right? We still have Boundless Spirit. We still have escalating exposure. We have ways of increasing our damage by a poop ton. So, and like we have Infuser to give us that spirit power conditional. So, and our 3's not max. So there's a lot of damage to be had from this item, and also it gives lifesteal, right? And it works for your entire team. The whole late game is spirit damage. This is a no-brainer. I think on a lot of characters you should actually be buying this item. If your character is decent at applying this item and wants to do spirit damage, or you're like a support that has no better item to buy and your team is mostly spirit, you should buy this item. I think it's busted. It's really good. It makes you do way more damage, right? And your 1 benefits a lot because it's a big burst of damage, so it's going to do a ton of damage. Even just 1 stack of this is making you do a lot more damage, and is basically taking an entire Enchanter's Emblem off of the person you shot, not counting the fact that it gives lifesteal and can stack more. After that, we go Boundless, right? Because we want to do more damage. Around this point, the percent spirit power increase is pretty big. This will make us heal more and do more damage, obviously. This is a pretty simple item. Then we have Mystic Vulnerability, 8% more shred, and gives us 8% resist for ourselves. And then we have Escalating Exposure, which has the same shred, but then on hit will apply a 4.5% spirit amp up to 12 stacks every 0.7 seconds. This is really good on Victor because he can apply this super easily, right? His 3 ticks every second, so this is going to continuously proc, and it's going to proc from your gun when your ult is level 1, and it's going to make them take way more damage, and it gives 17% spirit resist, so we have 25%. We didn't even build an actual resist item. So that's basically all of the items that are core to this character that you're going to build mostly left to right. Occasionally you might buy a reducer, but I would say probably not. You might buy an enchanter, Enchanter's Emblem, but usually you can get away with building the build like this. And if you ever get slot locked, you can always sell Close Quarters and extra spirit. I mean, not extra spirit, extra charge. And even with no walkers, you can get to this point in the build. And by now, your 2 would be maxed with my build, so you're getting that extra charge back, and you have 2 charges. Now let's get into kind of the situations when you would buy these other items and wrap it up. Forgot to mention actually the ability order, so I'm going to go over that real quick. Basically, you want to start with your 1 because as you start the game, this will be charged, so it's a nice way of doing damage. And you want to get that maxed first. So you want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then max your 1, right? max your 1 as soon as possible because your 3 is not really very usable early on because it's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. But this ability will heal you for, the percent of your missing health and do a lot of damage. So there's that. Then we put 2 points into our 2. This is to get that movement speed and the HP with the reduced cooldown. This helps us move around the map and it helps us sustain up. Once your 2 is level 2, you can start to actually heal from this more than it, hurts you, especially when you're around that 50% mark. Then we put 2 points into the 3. This is around the time when your 3 becomes good. So you want to put the points into it now because with the way that it lines up with the items, this is when it comes online. Then we put the 2 points into the ult. This is, when you would start fighting more, so your ult might pop sometimes. And you get that spirit damage when it's on cooldown. And when you do respawn from the ult, you'll have full health instead of half health. Then we max the 2 for the extra charge. Originally, I had maxing the 3 here, but maxing the 2 here is actually better in my opinion because then you can sell this item sooner and replace it with something else. And it means that you get that debuff resist and the improved scaling to heal more. Then we max the 3 to make it do its max amount of damage, and then we max the ult because I think maxing this last is the best because you kind of want it to be on cooldown a lot of the time for the buffs. So we're going to start with E-Shift. This item I think everybody has seen on this character. It's a very obvious item. The main downside to this item for most characters is that when you're in this state, so I'll just proc it here. When you're in this state, you can't shoot your gun, you can't use any abilities, you can't do anything. But with Victor has a nice interaction where when your 3 is active, you can go into E-Shift and it stays on. So you're basically immune to damage while doing damage, and that's really good because Victor has to hurt himself to do damage. So you become immune to your own 3 and continue to do damage. So, really, really good. It's really good against Haze, for example. If a Haze jumps on you and tries to ult you, you just pop E-Shift and stand on top of her, and because she's in her ult, she can't get out of your 3 and she's just gonna die, right? It's really good against not Dynamo, against Lash. It can be decent against Dynamo, but Lash, it's really good against anything that has a wind up to its CC and is predictable, or a Moen Krill if he goes on top of you and he's about to ult, right? It's a really good just raid boss item, right? You can sit in the mid boss pit with this on and make it hard for them to get rejues and stuff as long as your team is there to parry and stuff. It's really good. I have greater expansion here. This comes with 10% spirit resist, so we're gonna go to 33%. Gets diminished, but it's still good. And this will also increase the radius. So if your ult was if your 3 was max, it'd be at 10.8. This would take it to 11.7. It's quite a bit of extra range, and it'll actually affect your ult. And your 1 can go a little bit farther, which is nice too. But I would say, so far, E-Shift is the better one, if you have the money. And then I have cooldown. So I put this near the end of the build at the end of the build, because the only thing that benefits from cooldown is the 2 and the ult, because the 3 is always available, and the 1's based on how much damage you take, so it doesn't need a cooldown. Now, technically, does cooldown affect it? Yeah, cooldown does technically affect it, but the most it's going to go down is 0.5 seconds, and that's negligible anyway, because you have to take damage for it anyways. But putting it on the ult can be good. I just find that early game, it's actually best to not have a lot of cooldown on it, because the longer it's on cooldown, the longer you can take benefit of that while on cooldown effect. Most of the time, the only time you're really going to use this is when you're diving and you're going to get a kill, and then you just won that team fight anyway, so you don't need it for quite some time anyways, or if you're dying for a walker, right? So you don't need this up a ton anyway. So I save the cooldown for the end of the build, but it is nice to have, obviously, and especially if you're going to have E-Shift. Having transcendent cooldown means that you get it back every 28 seconds instead of every 37, so that's pretty good. And then most of these other items are pretty obvious when you would buy them, right? Warp Stone's really good if you need to stick to people that have good getaways, or if you find yourself low a lot when they're far away, right? Because you can go like this. I can TP in and then Warp Stone, or if I have it, I mean, I can TP in and then Infuser. Or if you have it with E Shift, you can TP in and then use E Shift, right? Heal Bane is really good right now. Before, I had this as a core item on my Victor, but I found that the healing from Radiant Regen is just better, and it's nice to have the flexible slots. So, I would still go this in a lot of games, though, where there's healing, because Victor's really good at applying this. Refresher, obviously, if it's like near the end of the game and you just need a way to come back, right, you can have double ults with this, which is really good. And then there's like fire rate slows with suppressor, normal slows with mystic slow, slowing hex, vortex web. I would only go this like actual last item if you went slowing hex and the game just went on forever. And then phantom strike is really good because you can get in on top of people and knock them out of the sky. Victor hates people being in the air because he has to do damage in a bubble around him. And then you have your anti CC stuff. So like rapid recharge, for example, I think this is like a survival tool. Basically, if the enemy has a lot of debuffs, like they have freaking, I don't know, like Infernus, they have Mina, they have a lot of things that just want to CC you and it's really obnoxious, like Graves, I don't know. I don't often buy this, but it can be good to have extra 2 charges because your 2, when it's max, will give you that 50% debuff resist, which is, nice, but I wouldn't say you often need more of it. And then you have your resist items down here, and healing tempo is kind of botted, but it's kind of like if you were to go Vortex Web, right? If the game just goes really, really long, you have this. And don't forget about Juggernaut, right? You get 50% slow resist instead of 25, so double the amount. And it's good against M1 because it makes them like really slow at shooting you. So don't forget about this item. But yeah, guys, that was the build. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think if you try it out. I think Victor's actually really good right now, so I would definitely give him a try if you have him unlocked and ranked. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm going to leave my stream in the description. I'm on a 5-game win streak, and I actually got that Misery 6 recently. My goal is to get at least an Oracle. I was a previous Phantom 6. So, yeah. See you guys.